Chapter 51. The Immortal Sects to the Rescue. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 51. Chapter 51. The Immortal Sects to the Rescue. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. The next few days, Jiang Hao was either escorting the captives or doing small errands in the area around the mine. He had used the daily appraisal on Wei Lei. Although Wei Lei didn't have an amiable personality and was often rude, he wasn't a traitor. Jiang Hao realized that if he did his work properly, he wouldn't come under Wei Lei's attention. Wei Lei was also a formidable disciple from Thunder Fire Peak. It was no wonder he was so arrogant. There should be no conflict between Jiang Hao and Wei Lei as long as he followed the instructions. The law enforcement hall didn't care about simple fights between the disciples unless they ended in death or disappearance. Jiang Hao didn't want to get involved in any kind of trouble. So, he kept a low profile. Jiang Hao's greatest worry was that he hadn't been able to earn any spirit stones in the past few days. He hadn't even had the time to collect simple bubbles in the morning. Jiang Hao thought he might find more bubbles deeper in the mine. However, Lu Xingchen had warned him not to enter the mine yet. There might still be danger in there. I just need to be patient. Maybe I won't have to stay here longer than necessary. If they could recruit others, he would be allowed to go back to tend the spirit herb garden in peace. Jiang Hao hoped the conflict with Azure Mountain would be over soon. That fight was the reason the mine lacked people. However, he needed to find another way to collect bubbles. I will take my time and observe the people here. It might be alright to enter the mine if I identify the people who are dangerous and stay out of their way. Wei Lei came up to Jiang Hao and threw a booklet at him. Senior brother, what is this? Jiang Hao was puzzled. The booklet has names of the convicts who need to be picked up from the Lawless Tower, said Wei Lei. Jiang Hao wondered why Wei Lei was giving him the booklet. In the future, you'll be in charge of escorting those convicts. Don't forget that you are still under my command. You'd better do your job well, said Wei Lei arrogantly. Not only will you escort them without trouble but also lead them into the mine. It's your fault we're short of manpower in this place, after all. Wei Lei turned around and left. Jiang Hao was even more confused now. Why was he given Wei Lei's job? Furthermore, he was supposed to enter the mine with the convicts this time. Jiang Hao felt that something wasn't right, so he used the daily appraisal ability on Wei Lei once again. Wei Lei. In the early stage of Golden Core Realm. Formidable disciple of the Thunder Fire Peak of the Heavenly Note sect. He was called to patrol the surroundings. He is unhappy with some people from Ice Moon Valley and wants to teach them a lesson, Ice Moon Valley. Jiang Hao realized that someone must have arranged for him to take over this job. His first thought was that someone from the Heavenly Joy Pavilion was trying to mess up his life again. He now wondered if he was targeted by another spy because of the Heavenly Fragrance Dao flower. Jiang Hao had to pick the convicts up from Lawless Tower now. The team of 5 was reduced to 4 after Wei Lei had left. The others were in the early stage of the Foundation Establishment realm. One of them was a fairy from the Ice Moon Valley. She didn't talk much but was meticulous with her work. The other 2 young men were from Misty Cloud Peak. One was skinny and went by the name of Jing Lin. The other was burly and muscular. He was called Mo Du. Although the 2 men often joked around, they were, for the most part, quiet and gloomy. Jiang Hao didn't trust them. They appeared to be the kind of people who would stab him in the back at any time. Jiang Hao had appraised them all. Jing Lin was the most intriguing out of the trio. He had deserted the Wing Lightning sect and joined the Heavenly Note sect. Coincidentally, some captives from the Wind Lightning sect had been captured recently. Jiang Hao was worried that might create some conflict. If Jing Lin was friends with the captive, he might try to do something stupid. After a while, they arrived at the reception area of the Lawless Tower. They saw the 4 captives in the area being monitored carefully. When Jiang Hao saw the 4 captives, he had a bad feeling. However, he didn't say anything. Jiang Hao went to the person who was monitoring the prisoners. Then, he escorted them outside. Jiang Hao felt that the captives' aura was not right. Although they were declared as being in the early stage of the lifeblood refinement realm, they had the aura of people in the golden core realm. Had the lawless tower failed somehow? Did they use some treasure to prevent the tower from stripping away their cultivation realm? He couldn't use the daily appraisal on them right now, and he couldn't tell the others what he had felt without explaining how he knew about their aura. Jiang Hao opened the booklet. "State your name and the name of your sect," he said. The others were silent. "I suggest you cooperate," he said. "State the name of your sect. Maybe someone from your sect will come for the records, but if you have no name, then you are as good as dead." "Wind Lightning Sect, Jing-Ru," said a young woman. Jiang Hao wrote that down. He wondered if she was somehow related to Jing Lin, who used to be from the same sect. He looked at the 3 people in his team. From now on, someone will need to escort the captives to the mine to familiarize them with the surroundings. "Who's going to lead them this time?" asked Jiang Hao. Everyone was silent. Jiang Hao saw Jing Lin hesitating. "Junior brother Jing, do you want to do it?" Jiang Hao didn't know what to do. He only hoped that there would be no trouble. There were 4 golden core realm cultivators. He was no match if they chose to attack together. Jiang Hao felt that he needed to raise his cultivation further. Chapter 52. Trickery. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 52. Chapter 52. Trickery, the rest. Jiang Hao opened the booklet and continued jotting down their names. "Beishue of the Sunset Immortal Sect," said a woman coldly. "Sunset Immortal Sect." Jiang Hao recorded everything without revealing his feelings. He then looked at Lu Meng. "Junior sister Lu, you can escort her to the mine with you." Lu Meng nodded. "Situ Jian of the Black Heaven Sect," said a smiling young man. "Shangguanwen of the Black Heaven Sect," said the man beside Situ Jian. Jiang Hao turned to Mo Du. "Junior brother, please take Shangguanwen with you. I'll escort Situ Jian to the mine." Jiang Hao felt that Situ Jian and Shangguanwen were the most dangerous among the group. Shangguanwen seemed to be someone who was forgotten too easily. Jiang Hao suspected that he could launch a sneak attack. Mo Du nodded. Jiang Hao whispered to him, "Be careful. Don't let him out of your sight." Mo Du felt that Jiang Hao was being unnecessarily cautious, but he nodded anyway. Halfway there, Jing Ru suddenly dropped to the ground and pressed her hand down. Jing Lin tried to pull her up, but Jiang Hao stopped him. Wei Lei would have slapped Jing Lin for his carelessness first and then turned to Jing Ru. Jiang Hao unsheathed his half-moon blade and pressed it to Jing Ru's hand. "Do you want me to chop off your hand or will you hand that over?" The atmosphere was unsettling. Jiang Hao watched Jing Ru carefully. There was no change in her aura. Jing Ru stared at Jiang Hao and handed over the 2 spiritual talismans. Jiang Hao examined them. They were made of special materials. Both were high-grade talismans. One was the mountain-moving talisman and another was the 9 heavens lightning talisman. "Did you truly want to cause trouble or were you deliberately letting me find this out?" asked Jiang Hao. "Search her." Jing Lin moved a step back. "Don't you dare. Those who resist will be killed on the spot," said Jiang Hao sternly. Jiang Hao had been trying to find a way to warn the others of the danger. With these talismans, he finally had an explanation for his team members. "Please don't get mad," said the smiling Situ Jian. "We'll cooperate wholeheartedly." Shangguanwen and Beishue also raised their hands in the air in surrender. Jing Ru gritted her teeth but remained quiet. Jiang Hao didn't care if they were men or women. If he allowed them any courtesy, they would just use it against him. After a short while, the 3 of them finished searching the captives. Jiang Hao glanced at the 4 prisoners. Search them again. Jing Ru was enraged. Bei Shue looked indifferent. On the contrary, Sheng Wanwen and Situ Jian appeared to be at ease. After searching them for a second time, they led them to the mine. Jiang Hao briefly explained the work to Situ Jian. Fellow disciple. Are you a formidable disciple of this sect? You were truly impressive before, said Situ Jian with a smile. You don't seem to mind being forced to work in these mines, said Jiang Hao. Situ Jian chuckled. My status in the Black Heaven sect is decent. Someone should be coming to take me back soon. L.RG. Until then, I hope you work diligently, said Jiang Hao without emotion. He was observing his surroundings. There weren't many people outside the mine. Almost everyone was inside. He had roughly figured out the layout of this place. The mine was like a maze. Anyone could end up lost or dead. Jiang Hao was worried that someone might appear from the shadows and attack him suddenly. Not long after entering the mine, he saw a purple bubble. When he passed by the bubble, a notification appeared on the interface. Divine Power Fragment +1, as expected, there were benefits inside the mine. He walked all the way to the innermost part of the mine and saw more bubbles. They were white and green. Ordinary Spirit Spear +1, Spirit +1, Strength +1, Endurance +1, feeling the bubbles absorb into his body, Jiang Hao was a little calm. At the very least, he could get bubbles while working here. He was not sure if the bubbles would appear in the same spot the next day. Unfortunately, everything wasn't that easy. There would be dangers lurking in the shadows. Not only the spies but also the captives might turn violent at any time. The arrival of Situ Jian and the other 3 captives had raised his suspicion. They weren't even the last batch of captives to be escorted to the mine. He needed to warn the manager. Wei Lei slammed his hand on the table and jumped up. If they dare to pull a trick like this, do you think they aren't capable of something more? They should have been killed on the spot. Leaving them alive will bring disaster later. I left you in charge, and you failed on the first job. How could you make such a stupid mistake? Jiang Hao stood quietly. He explained the situation to Wei Lei. He was from the Cliff of Broken Hearts, so Wei Lei had no right to punish him. This wasn't even a mistake as Wei Lei put it. At this moment, they were gathered at the administrative building. Wu Yuanwu sat in the middle of the desk and listened quietly. Wei Lai sat on his left. A woman sat on the right. She was dressed in simple clothes. She was a fairy, who was at the intermediate stage of the Golden Core realm. That was indeed rare to see. Junior brother Wei, don't exaggerate. Please, calm down, said the woman with a smile. This kind of thing happens. The woman was just trying to hide the talismans. This is actually the Lawless Tower's fault. They should have searched them more meticulously. How did they miss something like this? However, if it bothers you too much, I can take junior brother Jiang off your hands. He can work under me. He is not that bad, and I do need more people. In his anger, Wei Lai willingly agreed. Jiang Hao sighed inwardly. At least he wouldn't have to face disciples from the immortal sects anymore. The woman led him out of the administrative building. As soon as they walked out, she introduced herself. Junior brother Jiang, let's try to learn more about each other. I am Yan Hua. Yan Hua. The name shocked him. Chapter 53. The way to advance Indiana cultivation realm is through mining. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 53. The way to advance Indiana cultivation realm is through mining. Yan Hua of Heavenly Saint Sect. Jiang Hao had seen her name when appraising the puppet. He had assumed Yan Hua was a man. So, she's the one who's after me. He had no choice but to wait. He would have a chance tomorrow to use the daily appraisal ability on her. After they were done introducing themselves, Yan Hua explained the job to him. Jiang Hao only needed to enter the mine and supervise the workers. He needed to make sure there was progress when it came to mining. Otherwise, he would be in trouble. Not too difficult, right? Asked Yan Hua with a smile. If you find anything difficult, you can always tell me. Of course, senior sister, said Jiang Hao and bowed. Thank you. He stayed calm the rest of the day. The next day, when Jiang Hao met Yan Hua again, he used the daily appraisal on her. Yan Hua. In the intermediate stage of Golden Core Realm. Fanatic disciple of the Heavenly Saint sect. She has been undercover in the Ice Moon Valley for many years and has buried puppets all around the sect. When she found out that you had the heavenly fragrance Dao flower, she wanted to turn you into a puppet. She missed her chance last time. Jiang Hao's heart sank. This was bad. He couldn't fight her. Even if he used Shiyu, he might not be able to win against someone in the intermediate stage of the Golden Core Realm. He never thought he would be targeted by someone this strong. She even knew about the heavenly fragrance Dao flower. Jiang Hao wondered if others knew about it too. Junior brother Jiang, you're right on time. Yan Hua smiled at him. Today, you will go up to the 6th open pit. You just need to go in and supervise. The work is faster there, and it is fairly safe. Ah, right, she whispered. The people from yesterday will be there too. Senior brother Wu said we just need to observe them for now. Lure them out if they try anything. Be careful. All 4 of them. Jiang Hao felt that Yan Hua was deliberately trying to put him into such a situation. Maybe she wanted the 4 people to distract him while she found an opening to launch an attack. He nodded and thanked her. He then headed into the mine. He found the workers. They all looked dead. They were all skinny and ragged with scars and wounds. The newly captured disciples still had a little life in them, but the bruises on their bodies from endless whipping were apparent. He saw Situ Jian and the others among them. He didn't make them split up. They remained in a group of 4 as they worked. Jiang Hao didn't say anything. He opened his interface. Name. Jiang Hao, age. 21, cultivation. Early stage of Golden Core Realm, cultivation method. Heavenly Sound 100 revolutions, Hongmeng Heart Sutra, divine ability. 9 revolutions death substitution, unique, daily appraisal, clear and pure heart, lifeblood. 63 out of 100, can be cultivated, cultivation. 65 out of 100, can be cultivated, divine ability. 2/3, cannot be obtained, 21. Jiang Hao was surprised. A year had passed, and he hadn't even noticed. He was already at the early stage of the Golden Core Realm. Soon, he could advance to the middle stage. I'm almost through, thought Jiang Hao. I only need a few months till my cultivation reaches 100, but can Yan Hua, Situ Jian, and the others wait till then to attack me? His gaze was focused on the divine ability section. If he could find one more purple bubble, he would be able to obtain another ability. The ability was bound to be something powerful this time. Perhaps he could face Yan Hua with the new ability and his primordial heavenly blade. The workers began to dig holes in the mine shaft. Occasionally, they found some spirit stones. Jiang Hao remained alert. However, from his observation, the 6th open pit wasn't suitable for sneak attacks. Yan Hua would not dare to make a move in such an open space. Jiang Hao would definitely sense her presence. As for the people who were there, aside from Situ Jian and his group, nobody else hid their cultivation level. Jiang Hao approached a disciple, who was holding a whip. Senior brother Jiang, how can I help you? Asked the disciple. Do you happen to have an extra hoe? Asked Jiang Hao. He wanted to see if he could find more bubbles today. He couldn't visit the spirit herb garden and had to put the spirit beast on hold, too. If he wanted more bubbles, he needed to explore the mine. He wondered how quickly the bubbles would appear in this mine. Would he have to dig every day? Or would it appear every day in the same spot? If he could find many bubbles here, then advancing fast in his cultivation realm wouldn't remain a dream. The mine was dangerous, but it seemed that it was also full of opportunities. Mu Chi had obtained something remarkable here, after all. He didn't want rare treasures or inheritance. He just wanted some bubbles. The other disciples were stunned. Jiang Hao walked away with his hoe. "Junior brother, don't let them out of your sight," he warned. Everyone looked at Jiang Hao. They weren't sure why he wanted a hoe. He was supposed to just stand around and supervise them. Even Situ Jian and his group were puzzled. Jiang Hao walked to a side and swung his hoe at an oar that protruded from the wall. Some of the outer disciples of the sect, who were in the lifeblood refinement realm, were shocked. They couldn't understand why a senior was working when he could just stand in a corner and order others around. Jiang Hao didn't pay them any attention. He used the power of his foundation establishment realm to boost his hoe, and soon, he knocked out a piece of ore from the cave wall. A white bubble fell out with the ore. Strength +1. Chapter 54. Happy to mine. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 54. Chapter 54. Happy to mine. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Several bubbles appeared. Although they were mostly white, it was still better than nothing. At least it proved to Jiang Hao that bubbles could be found in the mine. He became even more energetic. He controlled the flow of his energy and strength so that he could keep digging for a while longer. Jiang Hao took care not to reveal his cultivation realm accidentally. He deliberately used the lowest level of energy from the foundation establishment realm. In this way, nobody could accuse him of using more energy and lifeblood despite being at the foundation establishment stage. He dug out more ores, and with it, more white bubbles. Occasionally, a few green bubbles appeared along with the white. Strength +1, Spirit +1, Spear +1, Jiang Hao didn't stop. He worked persistently. When he dug out ores of better quality, some blue bubbles appeared with them. Cultivation +1, he sighed in relief. After so many days, he finally had a hope of advancing through his cultivation level. With only his talent, it would take him more than 10 years to advance to the intermediate stage of the Golden Core realm. The blue bubbles were the fastest way of advancing. With enough blue bubbles, it would only take him a year or so. The sound of the hoe hitting rocks and ores rang through the mine. The ores were of high quality, but Jiang Hao didn't care. He ordered the workers to gather them and take them away. His goal was only to obtain more blue bubbles. The speed at which the bubbles appeared was unbelievable. They appeared one after another. Nobody had seen the bubbles appear so fast in the mines. Perhaps Jiang Hao had found a method to attract the bubbles to him. Mining was the fastest way to become stronger. Jiang Hao's cultivation and lifeblood increased. He had already absorbed around 10 blue bubbles by now. As Jiang Hao swung the hoe at the ore, it broke with a clang. Jiang Hao frowned. He wished he could take out his primordial heavenly blade and slice through the ores. However, that would draw too much attention to him. Senior brother Jiang, do you want to rest for a while? Asked the supervising disciple. Wu Jing was an outer disciple of the lifeblood refinement realm. He only needed to advance once to reach the foundation establishment realm, and then he could join the inner sect. He could even apply to leave the mine after that. Usually, disciples were free to leave after they joined the inner sect and could even apply for other jobs. However, the recent fight had caused a shortage of people, so nobody was allowed to leave their work, especially in the mines. The disciple was flustered. He didn't know what to do with this senior. Jiang Hao looked around and saw that everyone was taking a break. He nodded and walked to a corner. He asked the junior if he could get him a better hoe. Senior brother Jiang, do you still want to dig for ores? Asked Wu Jing in confusion. Yeah. Don't worry. I will make sure everyone is safe. His job was to make sure the workers were safe, and that the work was progressing smoothly. That was what he intended to do. Which branch of the Heavenly Note sect are you from? Asked Situ Jian. Jiang Hao had just crouched down to catch a breath when Situ Jian had quietly approached him. If you are done resting, go and work. Jiang Hao didn't want to encourage any sort of interaction with the captives. He wanted to wait until he could appraise them tomorrow. The 4 people from before definitely meant trouble. He needed to advance to the intermediate stage of the Golden Core realm as soon as possible. He didn't know how much time he had until these 4 people tried something dangerous. Jiang Hao had a lot on his mind. He wanted to dig more. He couldn't be too impatient. Back in the Devil's Den, it was because of his impatience that Lu Feng had found him suspicious. He didn't want to do anything like that because he didn't want to attract Yan Hua's attention. He had no choice but to be patient. After a while, Wu Jing finally brought him a hoe. This time, it was not an ordinary mining hoe. It was a hoe of the level of a magic treasure. Senior brother Jiang, I got this from the management building. Please don't break it. Wu Jing looked troubled. Otherwise, will it cost you spirit stones? How many? Asked Jiang Hao. Yeah. I don't have spirit stones right now, said Wu Jing. I get 10% from the advancement mission and the harvest mission. Jiang Hao nodded. Thank you. I'll be careful. Wu Jing then returned to his position to supervise the workers. Jiang Hao began to dig. The bubbles popped up one after the other. As they flew and absorbed into his body, he could feel the change in his cultivation and lifeblood. Strength +1, strength +1, spiritual sword +1, cultivation +1, cultivation +1, if he dug more, perhaps something better than blue bubbles might pop up. He was euphoric, but he made sure to maintain a calm front. He didn't want others to get suspicious. The speed at which he dug was unbelievable. The other felt frustrated. They assumed that this inner sect disciple was only showing off on the first day. From the next, it would fall on them to dig for ores and treasures. Only people at a low level of cultivation like them suffered the consequences. Chapter 55. Devour him whole. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 55. Chapter 55. Devour him whole. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Jiang Hao didn't know what the others thought of him, and he didn't care. It didn't stop him from digging. Instead, it made him even more persistent. He didn't stop, except for when the rocks fell, and he had to move out of the way. As the sky darkened outside, Jiang Hao put away the hoe and looked around the mine shaft. Today's progress was good. The workers heaved a sigh of relief. At least now, they could hope for a filling meal. The people of the mine also wanted to make a name for themselves. With a high cultivation level like Wu Jing, it was easy for them to advance to the title of a supervisor. They could even become an inner sect disciple if they worked diligently and had no criminal records. As for the captives, after reaching the foundation establishment stage, they would be thrown into the lawless tower again and would be escorted to the mines to work. However, despite high security, there were always some people who managed to escape. Jiang Hao glanced at Situ Jian and the others. At this moment, Shang Wanwan, who seemed to be so easily forgotten, suddenly turned to him. Jiang Hao was caught by surprise, but he didn't avoid his gaze. He just stared back at Shang Wanwan until the man turned away. Jiang Hao felt a sense of urgency to increase his cultivation level. After a day of mining, he obtained a total of 9 cultivation bubbles and 8 lifeblood bubbles. Mostly, white and green bubbles. Even if they were few, they were better than nothing. In fact, even the heavenly fragrance Dao flower didn't produce this many bubbles. After last time, the heavenly fragrance Dao flower only produced 2 bubbles every 3 days, which wasn't much. Lifeblood. 71 out of 100, can be cultivated, cultivation. 74 out of 100, can be cultivated, if everything goes smoothly, I can advance quickly within 4 days. Jiang Hao hoped there would be no trouble in these 4 days. When they all left the mine for the day, Yan Hua approached Jiang Hao with a smile. I heard you were busy digging, junior brother Jiang. Well, I had nothing else to do, so I was just helping out. I wanted to repay you for your kindness, senior sister. No one seemed to like Wei Lei around this area, but if Jiang Hao had a choice, he would choose Wei Lei over Yan Hua Anv Day. At least Wei Lei didn't want to kill him. Yan Hua was different. Perhaps she was waiting for Situ Jian and the others to cause some trouble, so she could find an opening to strike. However, she had benefited from the recent mining work. Then junior brother Jiang, I will rely on you to do what you can, said Yan Hua. Will you escort people into the 6th open pit and supervise them tomorrow too? Of course, said Jiang Hao. They talked for a while, and Jiang Hao took his leave. He needed to be extra careful. As he walked away, he felt eyes boring into his back from a distance. It made him uncomfortable. It felt as though she was going to devour him whole. He saw many people around the mine. So far, no one seemed suspicious. The captive still had hoped that some people from their own sex would rescue them in the future. He sighed and walked away. The law enforcement hall didn't care about the mines. As long as the people worked and brought them ores, that was good enough for them. Along the way, he saw some people who were out and about on patrols. Their cultivation level was very high. The next day, Jiang Hao continued mining. He was even more diligent that day. The others were curious about him. They wondered how long this inner sect disciple would carry on. Jiang Hao had appraised Situ Jian and found something significant. Situ Jian, successive disciple of the Black Heaven sect. In the intermediate stage of the Golden Core realm. Excellent talent. He used the sky, stealing Dharma treasure to divert Lawless's absorption and sealed his cultivation with the spirit-binding talisman before hiding in the mine of the Heavenly Note sect. The 2 talismans discovered were actually his. He was intending to blow up the mine and damage the Heavenly Note sect. While mining, he left behind some untraceable runes. He is curious about you. The result of the appraisal was surprising. He had intended for Jiang Hao to discover those talismans. He wondered why Jing Ru had agreed to be part of Situ Jian's plan. Wasn't she afraid? Was there somebody else helping them? Jiang Hao had many questions in his mind. However, he had to wait till tomorrow to use his daily appraisal ability. As for the runes left behind by Situ Jian, Jiang Hao would investigate the area. If there was something amiss, he would immediately report it. Jiang Hao dug with all his might. He didn't care much about concealing his strength this time because he needed to advance his cultivation as soon as possible before these captives attacked him. Many bubbles popped up. They were mostly white, green, and blue. Strength +1, strength +1, cultivation +1, lifeblood +1, spirit +1, lifeblood pill +1. His strength and spirit increased bit by bit. Jiang Hao was focused on getting stronger. If he mined here for 100 years, he was bound to become the strongest. By the end of the day, Jiang Hao had obtained a total of 20 blue bubbles, in addition to the white and green. Of the 20 blue bubbles, 10 were for cultivation and 10 for lifeblood. Soon, Jiang Hao said to himself. When it was time for him to leave, Jiang Hao examined the grounds of the mine. He didn't find anything. Where did Situ Jian conceal the runes? He was also in the Golden Core realm and had read the nameless manual to detect energy fluctuations. However, he couldn't sense anything here. That he couldn't really tell anyone about this, so he pretended as though everything was fine. Today's progress was at least 20% better than yesterday's. The others were happy too. They would definitely get better food tonight. The next day, Jiang Hao appraised Jing Ru. Chapter 56. Wanting to kill Yan Hua. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 56. Chapter 56. Wanting to kill Yan Hua. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation, Jing Ru. Successive disciple of the Wind Lightning sect. In the intermediate stage of the Golden Core realm, she used the same method as Situ Jian to bypass the Lawless Tower and enter the mine of the Heavenly Note sect. She saw that you weren't ruthless, so she deliberately let you discover the talismans. The two talismans were both triggers. Regardless of whether they are destroyed or not, they can attract experts from other sections. She, along with Situ Jian, wanted to damage the mine and free the captives. She secretly communicates with others by using a secret talisman and will be able to perfect the location in half a month. So, she thought I didn't look heartless and used me. Jiang Hao sighed. It wasn't the first time that something like this had happened. There was still half a month left. He still had time. As long as he mined quickly enough to find more bubbles, he could advance to the intermediate stage soon. If he reached the intermediate stage soon enough, he might still be able to avoid Yan Hua. As for the attacks from the Black Heaven sect, he wasn't sure if he could face all of them. However, if he could deal with Situ Jian and the others before the sect arrived, he would be safe. He couldn't tell anyone about his suspicions. He hadn't even found the runes in the mine that Situ Jian had supposedly hidden. Jiang Hao knew that danger was approaching. He couldn't slow things down any longer. He dug with all his might. The others found Jiang Hao's behavior incomprehensible. However, seeing their supervisor being so diligent, they didn't dare lag behind. Besides, if they worked well, they would get better meals at night. 3 days later, Jiang Hao finally finished mining. Almost all the blue bubbles were wasted today because his interface didn't absorb it at all. However, Jiang Hao continued a while longer for the white and green bubbles. If he was lucky, he could accumulate more attributes and preserve them to advance to the next level. He mined when the others did and took a break after a while. He observed the workers around him. I can finally advance tonight, thought Jiang Hao. As for Situ Jian and the other three, he had already appraised them all. Sheng Wanwen was indeed very dangerous. Although he was only in the early stage of the Golden Core realm, he was gifted. He had the ability to control every inch of his skin and his power. They had implanted an explosive somewhere. Its energy was reduced to the point that it was almost untraceable. Jiang Hao investigated the ground very closely. If he wasn't careful, he could trigger whatever they had hidden. However, he found nothing once again. He sighed in defeat. He had to admit that the enemies were very meticulous. Even with the help of the knowledge from the Nameless Manual, he couldn't sense anything at all. Unfortunately, time was of the essence. He needed to master the Nameless Manual if he wanted to find the runes. However, he couldn't do that in one day. Jiang Hao always remained alert, even in his own courtyard. He rarely slept. However, he needed some rest today. Some spirit herbs swayed in the wind in his courtyard. Jiang Hao had planted them thinking that they would produce some bubbles. He placed his special hoe in the courtyard and looked at it. He didn't know if anyone had bugged the hoe to monitor him, but it was better not to keep it with him inside the house. Jiang Hao walked into his house and opened his interface. Lifeblood. 100 out of 100, can be cultivated, cultivation. 100 out of 100, can be cultivated. He chose the option to cultivate. The next moment, spiritual energy surged into his body. Jiang Hao was taken aback at the strength of the energy. The Hongmeng Heart Sutra began to circulate, and purple energy guided his lifeblood. After the circulation started subsiding, his spiritual energy returned to his core. His lifeblood strengthened his body to 100 meridians. At this moment, the golden core was being nourished by his spiritual energy, and it was growing stronger by the second. As his spiritual energy calmed, Jiang Hao knew that he had advanced to the intermediate stage of the Golden Core realm. Everything had gone smoothly. He did not stop there. He made his lifeblood circulate to enhance his cultivation further. At the same time, he concealed much of his cultivation so that he didn't accidentally reveal it to others. Early the next morning, Jiang Hao opened his drowsy eyes. He got up and took out his primordial heavenly blade. He practiced the stance for the first form out of the 7 forms of the heavenly blade. He sensed the powerful intent of the saber. It made him feel more at ease. Should I look for Yan Hua? Jiang Hao hesitated with the thought. Yan Hua rarely stayed back in the mines after dark. If anyone was killed outside the mines, it would attract the attention of the law enforcement hall. He had to be patient. Jiang Hao headed to the mine and continued digging. Mining was indeed the fastest way to earn more bubbles. For a moment, Jiang Hao thought that it wouldn't be such a bad idea to work here. However, the heavenly fragrance Dao flower was too big of a responsibility for him to leave unattended. Jiang Hao saw a shadow outside. He was on his guard. However, when he went outside, he saw that it was just the Demoness. Why is she here? Jiang Hao was puzzled. Hong Yuye held a hoe and observed everyone around her. She turned to Jiang Hao after a while. You seem surprised, she said. Greetings, senior. Jiang Hao bowed. I am a little surprised, to be honest. He didn't think she would appear in the mines. Where is my flower? She asked without emotion. At my house, said Jiang Hao. Hong Yuye stared at Jiang Hao for a long time. MIT. Jiang Hao was rendered speechless. Chapter 57. Special Treasure Under the Mine. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 57. Chapter 57. Special Treasure Under the Mine. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. It seems you've been ignoring my instructions, said Hong Yuye. Her aura surged. It was vast and massive, like the Yangtze River. Senior, stammered Jiang Hao. I didn't really mean to do that intentionally. I was, in fact, trying to find that blend of tea when I was called to work in the mines. I cannot disobey the order from the sect. I couldn't uproot the flower and bring it here with me. I thought the environment would be unsuitable for its growth. Hong Yuye's gaze pushed him against the wall with a force. However, she let him go. She picked up the hoe. You like mining? I have begun to. Hong Yuye turned to him. Jiang Hao got nervous. Yes, I like it. She threw the hoe back to him. Then, she walked out of the mine as though she was there for a leisurely stroll. Follow me. Jiang Hao picked up his hoe and didn't dare hesitate a second longer. Hong Yuye stopped at the edge of the mine. Senior, there are a lot of people here. Jiang Hao reminded her. Hong Yuye glanced at him. Are you worried that I'll be in danger if someone sees me here? She asked. Or, are you worried you'll be in danger if you are seen with me? The first one, of course, he lied. He was only worried about himself. I see you haven't stopped with your lies, said Hong Yuye. She didn't berate him this time. She looked around the mine. Did you find an inheritance inside? Jiang Hao hesitated and then nodded. Yes. That wasn't a lie. He had indeed found an inheritance in the mines. It had appeared when he was still refining his advancement. He had practically done it right under her nose. She would already know by now that he was in the intermediate stage of the Golden Core realm. This was dangerous. Who knows what other secrets this woman would pry into? It is said that this mine was the center of war in the distant past. Some still believe there are many fallen treasures inside. Many spent their time digging persistently to find them. Others tried to blow up the mines because they thought these treasures were hidden in the depths, said Hong Yuye without emotion. She sounded like she was talking about something ordinary and unimportant. However, her words shocked Jiang Hao. He realized that whoever had put Situ Jian and the captives here was planning to find out if the legend was true. Jiang Hao had never heard about the legend. No one had ever mentioned it. Situ Jian and the others probably didn't know about it either. However, if Situ Jian's plan succeeded, the Heavenly Note sect would suffer a crushing defeat even if they won against Azure Mountain. "Senior, are you also here to obtain the special treasure?" asked Jiang Hao. Even though he didn't know what the treasure would be, he guessed it might be something valuable if the Demoness was after it. He didn't want the treasure. The law enforcement hall's investigation was meticulous. They would eventually hunt him down if he hid the treasure. So, he would hand the treasure in if he happened to find it. He didn't want to attract any attention to himself. He wanted others to think he wasn't someone significant, and that he was just a simple disciple who planted and took care of the spirit herbs. Hong Yuye glanced at him, but she didn't answer. However, her look was full of disdain. Jiang Hao's heart sank. When will I get rid of this Demoness? He sensed that she hadn't sought him out because of his background, or to keep an update on the heavenly fragrance Dao flower. It was something else. Was it because of the heaven extinction Yang Gu poison? That made him feel even more nervous, as though a knife was hanging above his head. She was even more dangerous than the Heavenly Joy Pavilion, the Sunset Immortal sect, and the Heavenly Saint sect combined. Jiang Hao had offended so many people at once. He sighed inwardly. Hong Yuye turned around and left. She took a few steps and disappeared into thin air. A voice sounded in his mind. "Remember that your job is to take care of my flower. If I see you in the mine next time, there'll be consequences." Jiang Hao was speechless. He needed to find a way to leave the mines. He didn't linger around and went down. He saw Yan Hua smiling at him. Jiang Hao always felt her gaze on him. Whenever he sensed her watching him, it made his scalp tingle. "Junior brother Jiang, the group you led to the 6th open pit has shown so much progress," said Yan Hua. "It seems assigning the job to you was the right thing to do." Jiang Hao thought that keeping Yan Hua happy right now was his best bet to delay her attacks. As long as he did well, she would be content. Good progress meant better rewards. If Jiang Hao increased the progress, Yan Hua would receive the reward, or so she thought. That was fine with him. He thanked her and went off to mine again. If possible, he wanted to advance to the next stage as soon as possible. It was always better to become stronger than the enemy. Besides, from what the Demoness said, people from the Black Heaven sect must be on their way to invade the mines. They wanted the treasure hidden in the mines. At night, Situ Jian and the other 3 captives returned to their accommodation. This was just a crude shelter that provided some protection from the wind and the rain. The space was very small. It was quite crowded. "Isn't it about time?" asked Beishue flatly. Her face held no emotions at all, as if they had been sucked dry. "I still need some time." "About 7 to 8 days, said Jing Ru. "The person with the talisman doesn't move very often, so I can't set the perimeter of the location. That's why the progress is so slow. I was so worried that he might not have found the talismans, after all. It's risky." "What if he makes a move?" asked Shenghuanwen. "That won't happen," said Jing Ru with a smile. "I can sense that Jiang Hao isn't very ruthless. He is not a killer. He seems to be far too cautious for his own good. I didn't expect him to hand over the talismans directly, though. He seems to be an honest person. But I am prepared for the worst. Even if I am caught, I won't implicate any of you. If it wasn't for the fact that destroying the talismans requires someone from the Golden Core realm, we wouldn't need to go through so much trouble." Jing Ru turned to Situ Jian. "How are your preparations going?" Chapter 58. Killing Jiang Hao in one move. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 58. Chapter 58. Killing Jiang Hao in one move. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Situ Jian shook his head. I stopped setting up the runes. The others were surprised. Although they were assigned together to get the job done, they weren't very familiar with each other in the beginning. It had taken a few days for them to get to know one another. After that, they assigned small tasks among themselves to get things done. Even if they were caught, they were loyal enough not to put each other in danger. Why? Asked Beishue. I did set up runes in the beginning, but, Situ Jian sighed. After we met Jiang Hao, I stopped. Is he that dangerous? Asked Shenghuanwen. I don't know. He shouldn't be. He doesn't look dangerous or powerful, said Situ Jian. He did notice my little trick, though. He is definitely not mediocre, or he wouldn't have noticed it at all, said Jing Ru. I just sense something, you know. I feel that he is more dangerous than he looks, said Situ Jian. So, I stopped setting up the runes to prevent him from noticing it. He looked at them. Also, didn't you notice? He always hangs around at the end and searches the ground as though he is looking for something. I think he knows what we are up to. He is just trying to find evidence. Be careful. Aren't you just being unnecessarily cautious? Asked Jing Ru. Better that than getting caught, said Situ Jian with a smile. Now, we just need to wait till the location is perfected. The things we prepared till now will be enough. There's no need to take extra risks. Have you secured the escape route? Yes, said Beishue. I found a way out from the back. When the time comes, we just need to leave that way. We don't need to do anything else. I am guessing the seniors are planning to attack the mine for some bigger purpose. Maybe, said Situ Jian. Have you found the people you wanted to save? Remember to inform the seniors when the time comes. Don't take too long. Once our plan is a success, I feel like Jiang Hao will chase after us. Do we kill him when that happens? Asked Shenghuanwen. My opinion is that if he doesn't harm us directly, we shouldn't make him our enemy, said Jing Ru. Shenghuanwen looked at Beishue and Jing Ru. If he's really powerful like Situ Jian seems to think he is, then having him as an enemy will only ruin our plan, said Jing Ru. We'll see what to do when we get to it. We'll need to act quickly depending on the situation, said Beishue. I don't think it will be particularly difficult to kill him. I can kill him in one move, said Shenghuanwen. I have observed him. In terms of strength, cultivation, and spirit, he doesn't seem to have any outstanding points. Getting rid of him should be easy. Don't worry about him. We can observe for a few more days to see if anything happens. The Heavenly Note sect will keep a close eye on us, so things won't go as smoothly as we expect, said Situ Jian. The others remained quiet. They waited and observed the situation for a few more days. Jiang Hao spent the next few days mining. Every time he sensed Yan Hua close, he felt her eyes on him. It felt as though she couldn't get her hands on him soon enough to turn him into one of her puppets. Jiang Hao stayed calm and composed. He didn't mind. In fact, he was waiting for her to strike, so he could fight back. He had gone to look for Yan Hua a few days ago. It had already been 5 days since he had advanced to the intermediate stage. He also knew that people from the Black Heaven sect were coming here soon. He was about to check his interface when he heard a sound coming from the ores nearby. Retreat! Quickly, shouted Jiang Hao to the workers. The miners were confused. Only 3 people seemed to take his words to heart. They fled. A huge snake demon broke out of the rock. As it slithered, chunks of rocks broke off and fell to the ground. It was a rock drilling snake. The miners who didn't move out of the way were struck by the falling rocks. The miners who had managed to hide were a little nervous. At this moment, the rock drilling snake opened its mouth wide, preparing to swallow the people who were trapped beneath the fallen rocks. The junior supervisor, Wu Jing, was about to attack the snake. However, a silver light glinted somewhere, and the snake's head fell to the ground. The light appeared again, like rays of moonlight, and cut the snake into pieces. The creature in the intermediate stage of the Foundation establishment realm was killed just like that. It had happened so quickly that everyone was surprised. Wu Jing looked at Jiang Hao in disbelief. At this moment, Jiang Hao was retracting his saber. Wu Jing had come across many rock-drilling snakes in the mine. They always caused panic among the miners. The creature wasn't very strong, but it sometimes caught people defenseless. Sometimes, even the inner sect disciples were helpless before the creature. However, it had been killed the moment it appeared. The miners looked at Jiang Hao with newfound respect. They felt that this supervisor was indeed very strong. Situ Jian looked at Jiang Hao. He felt that it would be better not to run into him in the future. His instinct told him that Jiang Hao wasn't as simple as he seemed. 3 people had been caught under the falling rocks. 2 men and 1 woman. Jiang Hao walked over to them. One of the men had suffered a severe injury on his thigh. The woman's arm was wounded, too. She wore the clothes of some other sect. Jiang Hao took out a pain-relieving talisman and threw it on her arm. The woman looked around smugly, as though to say that even as a captive, she was better than them. The injured man lowered his head and didn't say anything. Jiang Hao kicked him. "Open your mouth." The man was surprised. He opened his mouth, and Jiang Hao placed a medicinal pill into it. The man swallowed. There was an immediate effect. His lifeblood surged, and his thigh began healing. He could even feel his cultivation improving. Just sit and rest for a while. I'll continue with my work, said Jiang Hao. As he was about to leave, the woman grabbed him. Was that a spirit-gathering pill? She asked. I'm injured too. Why didn't you give me one? Jiang Hao was stunned. Chapter 59. The Stupid Woman. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 59. Chapter 59. The Stupid Woman. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. The people in the mines were shocked at the woman's actions. Many were also surprised that Jiang Hao had talismans and pills on him. Why should I give you a spirit-gathering pill? Jiang Hao asked the woman. Judging from her build, she seemed to be in the late stage of the Foundation establishment realm. She was young, which meant she could still advance rapidly. However, she had quite an attitude. Those who were of a lower level of cultivation should know their place. They needed to have respect for the ones who were of higher cultivation level than them, otherwise, they would end up dead. The fact that the woman was demanding something from someone who was of higher cultivation than her meant that she might have been born into a noble family and lacked manners. He's injured, and I'm injured too. Why is it that I only get a pain-relieving talisman, and he gets a spirit-gathering pill? Asked Ren Shuang haughtily. She assumed that she didn't need to be afraid of Jiang Hao since he was kind enough to give the injured workers talismans and pills. She was the daughter of an elder of the Black Heaven sect. She wasn't inferior to anyone here. Jiang Hao raised his half-moon blade and placed it at her throat. It wasn't unsheathed, but he didn't need to. The threat was clear. Are you able to mine? He asked. I'm injured. I can't work in this condition, said Ren Shuang indignantly. The blade flashed, and blood flowed out of a cut on Ren Shuang's neck. It was only a small cut. She covered her neck. A chill ran down her spine. I'm going to ask again, said Jiang Hao. Can you mine or not? Yes. Yes, I can. Ren Shuang trembled in fear. The hand that covered the cut on her neck was already tainted by blood. She knew that if she said no, she would be decapitated. That's great. Jiang Hao retracted his blade and turned to leave. He instructed Wu Jing to drag out the corpse of the beast. After collecting 2 blue bubbles, he picked up the hoe and began to dig. The others followed suit. Ren Xuan covered the cut with her hands and tried her best to stop the bleeding. Jing Ru glanced at Jiang Hao and frowned. It seemed that he was indeed different from what she had imagined. Shang Guanwen lowered his head and continued to dig. No one knew what he was thinking. After what had just happened, everyone seemed to be a little afraid of Jiang Hao. They worked quietly and diligently. Their progress at the end of the day was 30% better than yesterday. Wu Jing was in disbelief. He had never seen the miners work so diligently before. He was shocked by Jiang Hao. It seemed that inner sect disciples were not someone to mess with. Yan Hua smiled. Junior brother Jiang, you are amazing. You flatter me, senior sister Yan, said Jiang Hao humbly. By the way, the 4 people from before. Do they seem suspicious, she asked. Jiang Hao shook his head. Other than the information he got from the appraisal, he hadn't found anything else. It made him curious. He needed to read the nameless manual and grasp the concepts once more. However, he didn't have time. He could only focus on refining his cultivation for now. 2 days later, Jiang Hao appraised Jing Ru again. The information he got from the ability revealed that she would be able to perfect the location tomorrow. The attackers might then arrive. Tomorrow, it would be dangerous in the mine as well as outside. That day, Jiang Hao opened his interface when he reached home. Name: Jiang Hao, age 21, cultivation. Intermediate stage of Golden Core Realm, cultivation method. Heavenly Sound 100 revolutions, Hong Meng Heart Sutra, divine ability. 9 revolutions Death Substitution, unique, daily appraisal, clear and pure heart, vitality. 70 out of 100, can be cultivated, cultivation. 75 out of 100, can be cultivated, divine power. February 3rd, cannot be obtained, even if I find more bubbles tomorrow, it won't be enough. I need at least 2 days to accumulate the attributes. Besides, I need 1 whole night to break through to the next stage. Jiang Hao was silent. There was no other choice. He let out a weary sigh and went out to look for Wu Yuanwu. As he got near the mine, he observed the people who were strolling around. Some of them were in the early stage of the Golden Core Realm. A few were even above that level. He didn't know if the Heavenly Note sect had sensed anything. Jiang Hao wondered if he should just leave the sect. However, if he left, he would be at the mercy of others. The best I can do right now is to avoid the calamity and focus on my cultivation. I have to survive tomorrow. Tomorrow was a big day. If he died tomorrow, all his effort would have been for nothing. Jiang Hao felt that it was a pity he couldn't break through to the late stage of the Golden Core Realm when he was this close. He went back to his house. At daybreak, Jiang Hao walked out of his house. He glanced at the spirit herbs growing around his courtyard. When the Black Heaven sect and the others attacked today, this place would be targeted too. He couldn't make any changes now because that would attract suspicions. He wanted to tell someone about the impending attack but didn't know who he should turn to. When he arrived at the mines, Jiang Hao saw Yan Hua. She smiled. She seemed even more happy than usual. Jiang Hao realized that she knew about the attack from the Black Heaven sect. Once the attack began, she would come for him. Junior brother Jiang, don't run around once you enter the mine. If something happens, wait for me, said Yan Hua. Otherwise, you might get injured. Jiang Hao nodded and said nothing more. He led the workers into the mine. Chapter 60. Don't try to test me. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 60. Chapter 60. Don't try to test me. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Jiang Hao could feel Yan Hua's gaze on him as he walked into the mine. He couldn't help it. He turned around to check. Yan Hua was staring at him unwaveringly. When she saw him turn around, she smiled brightly. Jiang Hao nodded at her and entered the mine. It unsettled him to live as someone's target. Moreover, Yan Hua had some twisted plans for him. When they reached the depths of the mine, Jiang Hao looked around and found a place that looked sturdy enough. "Let's dig here today," he said. No one had any objections. Usually, when they couldn't find anything good in one place, they chose another area. So, it wasn't unusual at all. When everyone was busy digging, Jiang Hao glanced at Situ Jian and the other three. He noticed that they stood a little apart. The four of them had spread out a little. They stood near other captives. One of them was the woman from yesterday. It seemed like she was one of the people the Black Heaven sect was going to rescue. Jiang Hao was a little worried. He didn't care about being targeted by the outside sects because he had no intention of leaving the Heavenly Note sect anytime soon, at least not until he sorted the matter with the Heavenly Joy Pavilion. However, he was worried that the woman would order Situ Jian and the other captives to kill him when the Black Heaven sect attacked. This was too troublesome. He had to worry about Situ Jian and the others, Yan Hua, and the attackers. It would be easier for him to expose his cultivation to the Heavenly Note sect instead. It was the beginning of the nightmare. He needed to be careful. Jiang Hao observed Situ Jian and the others to see if they would make a move. He wanted to be ready if that happened. Jiang Hao knew what his next steps would be. He would use the demonic sound slash with the primordial heavenly blade. He wanted to get rid of them all as soon as possible and escape from there. That would be his last resort. He hoped no one would attack him so that he wouldn't have to use such a violent method. Jiang Hao picked up his hoe and got ready to dig. He didn't know when the enemy would attack, but he couldn't just stand around and do nothing. Situ Jian projected his thoughts onto the arrogant Ren Shuang. "Junior sister Ren, I am warning you. I am here to rescue you. But if you order me around or dare to act out, I won't hesitate to leave you behind. After that, you'll be trapped here for a lifetime. When I take you away from here, stay quiet. You can do as you please after we're out of here, but until then, your life is in my hands. Don't try to test me." Ren Shuang lowered her head and continued digging. She didn't say a word. She wished there was someone else who was tasked with rescuing her. However, his cultivation was higher than hers, so she couldn't go against him. At noon, Yan Hua looked up at the sky and smiled. Then, she strode towards the mine. No one knew why she was suddenly making her way to the mine. Nobody dared to ask her. In the cave, everyone was taking a break. Situ Jian and the others were sitting outside. Ren Shuang was also there with them. She lowered her head nervously. She was not the only one. Some of the people in the lifeblood refinement realm were also feeling anxious. Everyone seemed to know that today was the day. Shang Wanwen and the others were much calmer. They had already made their preparations. Inside, Jiang Hao, who was also taking a break, felt the sudden fluctuation in spiritual energy. It was very faint, but it was there. "They're here." He held on to his half-moon blade and made his own preparations. Boom! An explosion rang outside. The entire cave shook, and some parts of the mine collapsed. Fortunately, Jiang Hao and the others weren't in the line of fire. Jiang Hao got up. He wanted to leave because he knew Yan Hua was coming for him and didn't want to kill her here. He was worried that Situ Jian and the others would take the opportunity and attack him along with Yan Hua. Situ Jian was quick. He tore the talisman apart and began to retreat with the others. "Fellow disciple Jiang, it seems there is something happening outside. I'm going to go and check," said Situ Jian as the other disappeared deeper into the mine. Jiang Hao was relieved. This could buy him some time. The tremors stopped. Everyone felt helpless. Wu Jing looked at Situ Jian and the others. He was angry. These people dared to run wherever they pleased without his permission. He was going to chase after Situ Jian, but Jiang Hao stopped him. Stay here and watch the miners. I'll take a look outside. Wait for me here. Jiang Hao didn't linger around to see if Wu Jing understood him. He ran outside. Situ Jian and the others were going to escape from a route that was somewhere at the corner. Jiang Hao had found out the location when he had appraised Beishue. All he had to do was avoid that path. They couldn't go in or out of the mine. Yan Hua must be on her way. He needed to find other caves and decide whether he wanted to attack head-on or choose a defensive approach. Not long after Jiang Hao left, Yan Hua appeared before Wu Jing. "Manager Yan," said Wu Jing in greeting. Yan Hua looked around. Many people were missing from the mine. She didn't care about the others. She was looking for one specific person. "Where's Jiang Hao?" she asked. "Senior brother Jiang went to check what was happening outside. He asked us to wait here," said Wu Jing truthfully. "Is that so?" Yan Hua smiled. "Then you have to wait here. You're not allowed to leave until he comes back." "Yes, of course." Wu Jing lowered his head. Her smile scared him.